Today's story is about how a chance meeting between two very different people changed their lives forever. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to my channel, leave a like, and write your thoughts in the comments. For every new subscriber, I will donate $1 to charity. Emily was a young woman from a wealthy family, living in a large house on the outskirts of the city. Despite all the comforts and privileges she had, she felt like a failure. School was a constant struggle. No matter how hard she tried, her grades never seemed to improve, and she was convinced that everyone around her had already given up on her. Teachers barely paid attention to her, and her classmates whispered behind her back. Emily felt invisible and lost. Her parents, frustrated and worried, decided to hire a private tutor, someone who could help Emily catch up and finally succeed. That's how Marcus entered her life, a young man from a neighboring neighborhood. With a reputation for being smart and hard-working, Marcus was African American, and his background was very different from Emily's world of privilege. The day Marcus arrived, Emily was waiting in the study room, sitting by the grand piano her mother loved so much. When the door opened, Marcus stepped in quietly, carrying his books and a calm confidence. Emily barely looked at him. She felt an immediate resistance, not just because he was new, but because of the walls she had built around herself. She thought to herself that he didn't belong in her world, that he couldn't understand her problems. Marcus greeted her politely. "Good afternoon, Emily." "I'm Marcus, your new tutor," Emily responded with a cold glance. "Let's just get this over with," she said. "I'm not sure you can help me." Marcus smiled gently. "I'm here to try my best." Their first lesson began awkwardly. Emily was distant, often distracted, and sometimes openly dismissive. She rolled her eyes when Marcus explained concepts, made sarcastic remarks, and seemed determined to test his patience. Despite this, Marcus remained calm. He knew that breaking through Emily's defenses would take time. He didn't take her attitude personally. Instead, he listened carefully, noticed what made her uncomfortable, and adjusted his approach. After the lesson ended, Marcus packed his things slowly. "I understand this is hard," Emily said, without looking at him. "But I'm not the kind of person who gives up." Marcus nodded. "Neither am I." And with that simple exchange, a fragile bridge between them began to form, even if neither realized it yet. The lessons continued, and each session brought new challenges. Emily still struggled with the material, often frustrated by her own limitations. But Marcus did not give up. Slowly, he started to find a way to connect with her beyond the schoolwork. At first, the conversations remained strictly about algebra, literature, and history. But one afternoon, as rain tapped gently against the window, Marcus noticed Emily staring out with a distant look. "Is everything okay?" he asked quietly. She hesitated, then sighed. "It's just, everything feels so overwhelming sometimes. My parents expect so much from me. If I fail, it's not just me. It's like I'm letting down everyone who's ever believed in me." Marcus nodded, understanding more than she knew. Pressure can be heavy. When I was a kid, life wasn't easy either. Growing up in the neighborhood next door, I had to work twice as hard just to get noticed, to be taken seriously. Emily turned toward him, curiosity softening her eyes. "Tell me about it," she said. Marcus shared stories of his childhood. The late nights studying by dim light because his family couldn't afford much. The doubts he had about whether he could escape the cycle he was born into. But through it all, he held on to a belief that education could be his way out. Listening to Marcus, Emily felt something inside her shift. Here was someone who understood struggle from a place so different from hers, yet somehow it connected them. She began opening up more, sharing her fears of disappointing her parents, the constant feeling of never being good enough. For the first time, the tutoring sessions became more than just about passing tests. They became a space where two people from different worlds found common ground. Sometimes they laughed over silly mistakes. Other times, they talked late into the evening about dreams and hopes, things Emily never dared to say out loud before. Their relationship deepened, built on respect and a growing sympathy neither could ignore. Emily no longer saw Marcus just as a tutor. He was becoming a trusted ally in a confusing world, and Marcus saw in Emily not just a rich girl with problems, but someone with a hidden strength waiting to be uncovered. Together, they were learning more than just school subjects. They were learning how to trust, how to hope, and how to face the future, no longer as strangers, but as companions on a difficult journey. The calm routine that Emily and Marcus had built was suddenly shattered. One evening, after school, Emily returned home to the sound of raised voices echoing through the hallways. Her parents were arguing, louder than ever before. Words filled with anger, disappointment, and bitterness. The fragile stability of her family was breaking apart. Emily felt powerless. The divorce was inevitable, and the weight of it crushed her spirit. At school, her focus disappeared entirely. Homework was left unfinished, and the desire to even attend classes began to fade. She felt like giving up on everything, including her own future. Marcus noticed the change immediately during their next session. Emily arrived late, her eyes red, her usual spark gone. "What's going on?" Emily asked calmly. She hesitated, struggling to speak. "My parents, they're separating. It feels like my whole world is falling apart. I don't know if I can do this anymore. The school, the expectations, everything." Marcus sat quietly for a moment, then said, "Sometimes life hits us harder than we expect. But giving up won't fix the pain. You have strength inside you even if you don't feel it right now." Emily looked at him, searching for hope in his steady eyes. "I don't know if I can be strong," she whispered. Marcus reached out and gently placed a hand on hers. "You're not alone. I'm here for you, and I believe in you. We'll get through this together." His words didn't magically fix everything, but they were the lifeline Emily desperately needed. Over the following weeks, Marcus became more than a tutor. He was her confidant and her support. Whenever she felt overwhelmed, he was there to listen and remind her of her worth. Slowly, Emily found the courage to keep going. She started studying again, even when it was hard. With Marcus's encouragement, she faced her fears one by one. During these difficult days, the bond between them deepened. What began as a professional relationship quietly shifted into something more personal. There were lingering glances and subtle touches, moments where the air seemed charged with something neither wanted to name aloud. One afternoon, after a particularly hard conversation about her family, Emily stayed behind after their session. Marcus noticed the softness in her eyes and the way she hesitated before speaking. "I don't know what I would do without you," she said softly. Marcus smiled, his heart beating faster. "You don't have to face anything alone anymore." That moment marked the beginning of something new, a tender spark of romance growing between them, born from shared struggles and genuine care. Emily still had a long road ahead, but for the first time, she felt she had someone who truly understood her. And Marcus, too, realized this connection was changing him in ways he hadn't expected. Together, they were learning not just about lessons in life, but about trust, healing, and the quiet power of love. That evening, the house was unusually quiet. The last rays of sunlight had faded, leaving soft shadows to dance across the walls. Emily and Marcus had just finished their tutoring session, but an unexpected delay kept them inside the house longer than usual. The rest of the world outside felt distant and unimportant. Emily was packing her books when she realized the clock had slipped far past the usual time for her to leave. Her parents were out, and the house was empty. For the first time, she noticed Marcus sitting closer than before, the calm confidence in his eyes drawing her in. There was a moment of silence that felt heavy and charged, like the calm before a storm. Emily's heart pounded in her chest, emotions swirling inside her, fear, desire, confusion, and something unfamiliar but thrilling. Marcus looked at her with the same mix of hesitation and hope. Without words, the space between them disappeared. Their hands touched tentatively at first. Then with growing certainty, the tension broke like a wave as they leaned into each other, sharing a gentle but powerful kiss. It was the beginning of something neither had fully anticipated, but both secretly longed for. The warmth of the moment wrapped around them as they gave in to their feelings. It was not just a physical connection, but an emotional release, a silent understanding that they belonged to each other, at least in that fleeting instant. The outside world, with its judgments and challenges, faded away. Later, as they lay side by side, the reality of what had happened slowly settled in. The room was dimly lit, shadows playing softly on their faces, revealing vulnerability and curiosity in equal measure. Neither spoke at first, both lost in thoughts that were difficult to express. The next morning brought with it a storm of emotions. Emily woke up with a flutter of anxiety, her mind racing through the night's memories. What had they done? Was it right, or reckless? Would things ever be the same again? The fear of judgment from herself and others gnawed at her confidence. Marcus felt it too. The awkwardness of stepping into uncharted territory. But beneath the uncertainty was a new clarity, a deeper connection that no longer needed words to be understood. He wanted to be there for Emily, to protect what they had started, even if it meant facing difficult conversations. At school, their eyes met briefly, and in that silent glance was a promise, fragile but sincere. They were no longer just tutor and student, something more profound had begun, threading their lives together in ways they were only starting to comprehend. Despite the embarrassment and fear, they found comfort in the knowledge that their bond was real. It wasn't perfect, and it wouldn't be easy, but it was theirs. And in a world full of uncertainties, that truth was a beacon of hope neither wanted to lose. In the heart of the city stood a prestigious restaurant known not only for its exquisite cuisine, but also for its unforgiving atmosphere. It was a place where tradition ruled and change was often met with resistance. When Darius, a talented black chef with a passion for bold flavors and innovative dishes, was hired, he knew the road ahead would not be easy. The kitchen, a battlefield of simmering egos and old biases, was not welcoming. His new colleagues eyed him with suspicion and sometimes outright disdain. The head chef's subtle glances and dismissive remarks made it clear that Darius was seen as an outsider, someone who did not belong in their refined world. Among the staff was Caroline, a waitress from a wealthy family who had always looked down on those she considered beneath her social class. When she first saw Darius walk through the kitchen doors, her thoughts were laced with the prejudices she had grown up with. To her he was just another employee, hardly worthy of respect. But as days passed and she witnessed Darius's unwavering dedication and undeniable talent, the walls she had built around her assumptions began to crack. One evening, as the restaurant buzzed with the usual crowd, Caroline found herself in the midst of a personal storm. Her family was unraveling, secrets spilling into the light, and she felt lost in a world she had once controlled effortlessly. It was then that Darius noticed her quiet distress. Without words, he offered a simple gesture, a perfectly crafted dish he had made just for her. It was not just food, it was a message of hope and understanding. As Caroline tasted the meal, something shifted inside her. She saw Darius not as a stereotype or a symbol of her own biases, but as a man with a story, with struggles and dreams just like hers. They began to talk, first hesitantly. Then with growing openness, Darius shared tales of his journey, the hurdles he overcame, the fire that drove him to cook despite the odds. Caroline revealed the pressures of her family's expectations and the loneliness hidden behind her privileged facade. Their friendship blossomed into something deeper, founded on mutual respect and empathy, but the challenges were far from over. The restaurant faced financial troubles, with old rivals threatening to shutter its doors. It was Darius's creativity and resilience that sparked a transformation. He introduced fresh ideas to the menu, blending his heritage with classic techniques, capturing the attention of critics and patrons alike. Slowly the restaurant's fortunes turned around, and Caroline found herself inspired by Darius's strength and vision. Together they navigated the complexities of the kitchen and the personal battles they faced. In the process, Caroline learned to shed her prejudices, while Darius found not only acceptance but a partner who believed in him. The chef's redemption was not just about saving a restaurant, it was a story of breaking barriers, confronting biases, and discovering unexpected friendship in the most unlikely places. It reminded everyone that true talent and character could never be confined by race or class, but could only shine when given the chance. Emily's world was shifting faster than she could keep up. The tension with her parents had reached a breaking point. They were furious, unable to accept the changes in her, the way she was growing closer to Marcus, the private tutor from the neighboring district, the boy they had once dismissed without a second thought. Their disapproval wasn't just about Marcus himself, it was about everything he represented, the barriers Emily was crossing, the social expectations she was refusing to obey. Conversations at home became battles. Her father's voice raised sharply, as he insisted Emily focus only on what mattered in their world: status, reputation, and carefully controlled futures. Her mother, torn between love and loyalty to her husband's views, pleaded for Emily to understand the consequences of stepping outside their carefully drawn lines. But Emily had begun to hear a different voice. Her own. She knew the path ahead would not be easy. Society's whispers and pointed glances were already following her. Friends she once considered close started drifting away, uncomfortable with the changes they saw in her. Yet, for the first time in a long time, Emily felt alive, authentic, and free from the weight of others' expectations. She made a decision: she would no longer let stereotypes dictate her life or her heart. Meanwhile, Marcus was facing his own turning point. His relentless dedication and undeniable talent had caught the attention of a prestigious culinary institute, offering him a scholarship. This opportunity was not just a career milestone, but a chance to elevate his status, to break free from the limitations that had always shadowed him. Yet, even as he prepared for this new chapter, he remained grounded by his connection to Emily, knowing that their journey was intertwined. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky with hues of gold and pink, Emily and Marcus met at a quiet park bench away from the noise of judgment and expectation. They spoke openly, their voices steady with determination and hope. Emily said softly, "It's terrifying, but I'm ready to face whatever comes next. I want to live for myself, not for anyone else's image of who I should be." Marcus nodded, his eyes reflecting the same fierce resolve. "Whatever happens, we face it together. We've come too far to turn back now." The barriers still loomed, the disapproval, the social divide, the challenges ahead, but they stood shoulder to shoulder, ready to fight for their truth. Their love had grown beyond the initial spark. It had matured into a bond fortified by struggle and mutual respect. In the weeks that followed, Emily's parents slowly began to see the change in their daughter, not as rebellion, but as growth. Marcus's achievements began to earn him recognition not only in his community, but also in the circles that once looked down on him. The once clear lines of division started to blur. Together, Emily and Marcus navigated the complexities of their worlds, learning that true acceptance comes not from fitting into molds, but from courageously breaking them. Their story became a testament to the power of love to challenge prejudice, to inspire change, and to open new paths where none seemed possible before. This was not just a victory for two young hearts, it was a triumph over the invisible walls that society builds, a reminder that sometimes, the greatest battles are won not with fists, but with the courage to be oneself, and the strength to stand by those we love. After all the storms they had weathered, Emily and Marcus finally stepped into a new chapter of their lives together. It wasn't just about living under the same roof anymore. It was about building a life rooted deeply in trust, respect, and unwavering support. The walls that once confined them had fallen, replaced by a foundation of shared dreams and mutual understanding. Emily, once overwhelmed by self-doubt and the crushing expectations of others, had transformed into a confident woman who believed in her own worth. The pressure that once threatened to break her now fueled her ambition. With Marcus by her side, she pursued her goals with renewed passion. She excelled in her studies, but more importantly, she embraced her individuality, refusing to let anyone else define her future. Marcus, having risen from a background marked by struggle and skepticism, was no longer just the tutor or the outsider. He had become a partner, an equal, a beacon of strength and kindness in Emily's life. His own journey toward success was inspiring, from earning prestigious awards in the culinary world to opening opportunities that once seemed unreachable. Yet, despite all the acclaim, he remained humble, grounded by the love he shared with Emily and the battles they had fought together. Their days were filled with laughter and quiet moments alike. They celebrated small victories, like mastering a difficult recipe or acing an exam, as if they were grand achievements, because each step forward was a testament to their resilience. Their love was a refuge, a safe place where both could shed the masks they once wore to fit in, and simply be themselves. One evening, as they sat side by side watching the sunset from their cozy apartment balcony, Marcus looked at Emily and said, "I never imagined I'd find someone who truly sees me, not just the surface, but all of me. You changed everything." Emily smiled, feeling the warmth of his words seep into her heart. "And you showed me how to stand tall, no matter what anyone else says. Together we're unstoppable." Their story was more than a romance. It was a message to anyone who had ever felt trapped by prejudice or expectation. Love, they proved, had the power to break down walls, to heal wounds, and to rewrite the future. As the days turned into months, and months into years, Emily and Marcus built a life full of promise and hope. Their journey wasn't always easy, but it was theirs, authentic, unyielding, and beautiful. In their love, they found freedom, strength, and the courage to be unapologetically themselves. This was the ending they had dreamed of, not because it was perfect, but because it was real. A testament that when two souls meet with open hearts, even the tallest barriers can crumble, and a brighter, more inclusive world can begin to take shape.